Hey everybody, and welcome to Foundations. Today we have our first class. So this is a very exciting moment. You've been following along with all of these tutorials, and now we're ready to start putting things together. We're going to use a lot of the poses that we have learned in the past 9 classes. Maybe not every single variation of them, but we're going to put together what we've learned. It's very exciting. I'm not using any props today, but of course, if you've been following along with the tutorials, you're aware of how to use the props, and you can have any props with you that you want to have. It's better to have more props closer to your mat than fewer, so that they're there for you if you decide in the middle of something that you could use one of them. All right. So let's get started in a comfortable seat. You can prop your sits bones using a blanket or find any comfortable seat that lets you sit upright. All right, so sitting up nice and tall. And we're going to start by allowing the eyes to softly close. And if that's really difficult for you to close the eyes, can be challenging, so just soften the gaze, just so that you're not really looking at anything in particular. And then draw your awareness to your breath. We breathe through the nose only. We keep the mouth closed during practice, trapping heat and energy in the body. Breathing in and out, deep, steady, even breaths through the nose. So as you focus on the breath, allow the breath to grow deeper, the breaths to grow longer. Notice the way the breath moves the body. See if you can feel your rib cages expanding to the sides, your rib cage expanding to the sides, maybe even placing your hands on the sides of your rib cage, noticing the way it moves out and back in as you inhale and exhale. Otherwise, your hands can rest wherever feels comfortable, with either palms facing up or palms facing down, just whatever feels right in this moment. You're sitting up nice and tall and using this time to really draw your mind into the present moment, away from the past, away from the future, away from what's already happened today, and away from what you have yet to do today, into this moment right here, right now, on your mat. Anchoring the mind with the sound of the breath and the sensations of the body. Notice the way that you're feeling today. Notice any feelings of nervousness or maybe anxiety to get this over with and move on to something else, and see if maybe you can find a little piece of contentment here on your mat. Content to just be here right now. Because it's in that contentment that you'll find that you're able to enjoy these precious, small, tiny moments of your life. And then we'll softly open the eyes. And then we'll start to warm up in our seat. So first we're going to stretch through the side of the body, placing the right hand down and lifting the left hand up and over. Maybe turning your gaze up towards the sky or the ceiling. Good. And if you've got a lot of space here, you can come all the way down, even further onto the forearm. Of course, you can always rest your hand or your forearm on a block. Good. let's take it to the other side. And really finding some length in the side of the body, all the way from your right hip up to your fingertips. Continue to breathe. Deep breaths in and out the nose. Don't hold your breath, even as you hold the poses. And then come back to center. Let's take a twist. So first I'll twist to my right. So we're not forcing our way into the twist. I use my hands to support the spine, but really I want to I want to avoid using my hands to push myself, to crank myself into this twist, and just let it be nice and gentle and natural. It doesn't have to be anything extreme. We want to respect the body, respect the spine, and keep breathing. And we'll switch sides, twisting this time to the left. And then we will untwist. Good. So let's just pause here for one more moment in our seats, maybe setting an intention for your class. So this intention can be a thought, maybe just a word or two. It's something you'd like to dedicate this time to today. Could be a prayer or a mantra. Could be as simple as just the word breathe. Good. If your eyes are closed, go ahead and open them, and we'll make our way to tabletop. So coming to all fours, knees under hips, wrists are under shoulders here. Good. Fingers are spread nice and wide, pressing through the entire hand, all the pads of the fingers and the palms, especially the index and thumb fingers here. And if you have wrist issues, you can always use a couple of blocks. Bring your forearms down onto blocks, so your elbows down onto blocks on the tallest height. And then once we're in tabletop, draw the navel into the spine. Nice long spine here, and we'll move through cats and cows, connecting breath and movement. So on your inhale, drop the belly, lift the chest, and exhale, round the spine, tuck the tail, let the head drop. Inhale, moving into cow pose, and exhale, moving into cat pose, Marjariasana. For those who are curious, keep going, moving at the pace of your own breath. Breathing in and out the nose. Good. And at this point, you can start to add in extra movements here. Maybe some hip circles, moving around, first in one direction, and then in the other. Maybe you add in a wrist stretch, just anything that feels good here, connecting breath and movement. So don't forget to tie in your breath to these movements. So as you move, you're keeping the breath nice and steady. Good. And then we'll thread the needle. So first, let's lift up the left arm all the way up to the sky, opening through the heart space. Deep breath in and exhale, thread the arm under. And we'll pause here. Good. Let's take it to the other side. So moving back through tabletop, lift your right arm up, open through the heart space, and thread the arm under. And pause here. Good. Now slowly start to press yourself up and out of that pose and come back to tabletop. We're going to move into downward facing dog. So this is one we've just recently learned. And we're going to ease our way into it. So slowly walk your hands up to the top of the mat, maybe sending hips back to heels, stretching through the shoulders a little bit. Good. And then shift back forward. Tuck the toes, and remember you can keep your knees bent, so you don't have to go straight into straight knees right away. In fact, I prefer not to most days. We're going to slowly lift the sits bones up as we open up through the shoulders here. And your heels do not need to touch the ground by any means. Please don't feel like that's the point of downward facing dog. So, and it can be different throughout a class. So sometimes I'll start a class and my heels aren't touching the ground. And by the end of the class, I've lengthened through the back body. And maybe at that point my heels touch the ground, but that's not the point. It's not the purpose of downward facing dog. We want to find nice long lines through the back of the body. Open shoulders, long spine, stretching through the backs of the legs. I'm pedaling my heels out here. So I'm working my way into my legs. Good. Now let's come up onto the tippy toes here in downward facing dog. And then we'll plant the heels down towards the left corner of the mat. So I'm just kind of spinning my heels down and planting them on the mat. Good. Inhale, lift up to the toes, and heels come down to the right side of the mat. Ooh, there's a caterpillar on my leg. Let's remove you. We're going to relocate you. Okay. Inhale, come back up onto the toes and settle back into your downward facing dog. Take a couple more deep breaths here. And you can come back to tabletop to move into our sequence, or you can stay in downward facing dog. And we're going to bring the left foot up for low lunge. So I'm going to take my left foot and plant it up between my hands. You can give an assist with your hand if you need to. And we'll set up for low lunge here. So square the pelvis, hip points pointing forward. Hands can stay on the ground, or you can bring them up to your leg. And if you are comfortable, you can start to lift the hands up overhead. Good. Good. So draw your belly button up to your spine. And especially for this first low lunge, which we only have one in this class, but in the beginning of a class, sometimes we're really sinking into it like this, but I find it can actually give me a little bit more openness in the front of this hip if I pull back a little bit and draw belly button up to spine. Good. I'm going to keep my hands down here on my leg. Good. Keep breathing. Heart space open. Shoulders are melting down away from the ears. I'm going to move from here into half splits. All right, you ready? So I'm going to plant my hands back down on the mat, shift my hips back, and remember this leg does not have to straighten all the way. We're just gently working into the back of this left leg here, and hands can be on blocks here if you want them. Square the pelvis. Hip points are pointing forward. Keep breathing. All right, so let's flow with the breath a little bit here. Inhale, shift forward into your grounded lunge, and exhale, move back to half splits. Inhale, shift forward. And exhale, half splits. Inhale, shift forward. Exhale, half splits. One last time. Inhale, shift forward. And exhale, half splits. Let's hold here for just a couple more breaths. Then on your next inhale, shift forward, and we'll just heel toe that left foot out to the side for lizard pose. You can stay here with the back leg grounded, or you can tuck the back toes, lift the knee, and maybe you find a little bit of movement back and forth. There's mosquitoes flying around my face. Good. We're going to move from lizard into pigeon. So if your knee is lifted, go ahead and lower it. And if you've seen my pigeon video, you know all sorts of ways to use props in this pose. I'm going to heel toe my foot over to the right side of the mat and come down on that hip. Good. So first I'm going to just kind of stretch here. This feels nice for me. It may not feel the same way for you. But I'm just going to kind of stretch. I like to lift my arms. This is great strengthening for the low back. And then I'm going to lower into a fold over that front leg. I'm going to make a cushion for my head with my arms and just come to a place of rest here in pigeon pose. While you're here in pigeon, soften the jaw and all the muscles around the mouth. Soften the space between the eyebrows and around the eyes. And keep breathing deep, easeful breaths in and out the nose. Allow your mind to really start to melt into this moment as your body rests on the mat. Paying attention to what thoughts want to enter your mind, just noticing them and then letting them drift away as you remain here. So I'm going to gently start to lift my head and press myself up out of this pose. And to come out of this pose, I'm just going to slide my leg back. So nothing too difficult, just a gentle slide. And then you can stay in tabletop if that's your place to be today, or you can tuck the toes and lift the hips, downward facing dog. Good. So in downward facing dog, I'm going to just lift that left leg, circle out the ankle, maybe bend the knee and circle the hip. Just getting a little circulation flowing in that leg. Good. And then I'm going to come back to downward facing dog and take a few deep breaths here as I prepare to do that same sequence on the other side. Good. So I'm going to now bring my right foot up for low lunge. So again, you can be moving from tabletop or downward facing dog, whichever suits you today. All right, so I'm in my low lunge and I'm going to lift my hands up to my knee. You move into your version. And remember, as we move into the second side of our sequence, that the sides of the body are not alike. No one is perfectly symmetrical. So your experience of the poses on this side of the body may be completely different from the way it felt on the left side, the first side that we did. Deep breaths in and out the nose. Good. And the belly up to the spine. And then we're going to move into half splits. I'm going to bring my hands down to the mat. Your hands can come to blocks. Good. And pause here. And on an exhale, shift the hips back. keeping the pelvis square. Don't need to straighten this leg all the way, just gently working our way into the back of that leg. Allow the breath to soften the body as you hold this pose. And as the mind begins to wander, which it will, draw your thoughts back to the breath. That sound of the breath can really root you on your mat in this moment. Good. On your next inhale, shift forward. We're going to flow here. So exhale, half splits. Inhale, grounded, low lunge. And exhale, half splits. Inhale, shift forward. And exhale, shift back. 2 more times. Inhale, shift forward. And exhale, shift back. Inhale, shift forward. And exhale, shift back, and we're going to hold here. Keep breathing. Don't hold your breath. Keep that breath flowing in and out the nose. And on your next inhale, shift forward and move into your version of lizard pose. So I'm going to heel toe my foot out to the side, and I want my pose to be more active. So I'm going to tuck my toes, lift my knee, and I like to find movement here. Good. And we're going to move from lizard into pigeon pose. So if you've got your back knee lifted, go ahead and lower it and untuck the toes. Heel toe the foot to the opposite side of the mat, using props if you want them. And I'm going to pause here. You can melt right into it if you want, but I'm going to pause here and wiggle my way into that hip. Lift my arms and find a bit of a stretch here. And then I will fold over the front leg here, pillowing my head on my arms here. And soften the jaw and the muscles around the mouth. The space between the eyebrows, the muscles around the eyes. Allow the breath to soften the body as you grow more and more rooted in this moment on your mat. Relax the shoulders. Good. Now we're slowly going to lift the head and press up out of the pose. Nothing fancy. We're just going to slide that leg back as we come to tabletop. So we're going to move into our last downward facing dog of the class. So I'm going to walk my hands forward, tuck my toes, and send my hips up and back. Let's take 5 breaths here in downward facing dog. So take a deep breath in through the nose. Let's not open the mouth. That's a cleansing breath. And exhale. That's 1. I'm a bit too relaxed right now, I think. Inhale. And exhale, 2. Deep breath in. And a deep breath out. 3. Deep breath in. And a deep breath out. 4. Last one, deep breath in. And a deep breath out. That's 5. All right, so shift forward. We're going to bring our knees down to the mat and move into hero's pose.
So I've got my knees together and my feet apart. If you've got something going on in your knees, you can use a block to sit on, or 2 blocks, or a nice big pillow, something that's comfortable for you. And I'm going to sit right back in between my feet. And I'm going to pause here with my eyes closed and my palms face down on the thighs. Breathing deeply in and out the nose. The tops of the shoulders melt down away from the ears as the neck lengthens. The whole spine lengthens from tailbone all the way up to the base of the skull. Good. I'm going to move from here into child's pose. So I'll shift forward and I'm going to bring my feet together, knees apart. You can bring knees together if you like. This is just the variation that my body is craving right now. So I'm going to reach my hands forward and melt down into child's pose. Feel the support of the earth as your body rests on your mat. If your mind starts to wander again, bring your thoughts back to the sound of your own breath. Or imagine yourself growing roots from your body down into the earth through your mat, reaching down deep, finding that connection. Good. And I'm going to come up out of my child's pose. I'm going to sit back and then swing my legs around for a seated forward fold, Paschimottanasana. You don't need to memorize those, but sometimes they're really fun. I like that one, Paschimottanasana. All right, so for a seated forward fold, first I'm going to sit nice and straight upright. I'm going to have my hands down at my sides and pause here. So my spine is nice and tall here. My legs are straight. My toes are pointing upward as my feet flex back, toes pointing back towards my face. Good. This pose I think is actually more challenging than it seems. And we're going to forward fold. So if you want, you can bend your knees and maybe stick a bunch of pillows or a bolster under there. That's just an option for props that I think I didn't mention in the first video. I'm going to inhale and reach my arms up and exhale, forward fold. Remember that your forward fold does not have to look like anyone else's. It's a journey, and we're all in different stages on that journey. We're all in different places. Remember to be kind to yourself. If you can't be kind to yourself, how can you extend that kindness to others? So think of somebody that you love, somebody whom you love, and think of the kindness that you often extend towards that person. And see if you can extend some of that same kindness to yourself, that same gracefulness, graciousness. A little bit of self-love. There's no need to strive for perfection. It's just an illusion. Embrace the good things that you have right now. Good. On an inhale, I'm going to come back up out of my forward fold. And I'm going to turn to face the long side of my mat, move into Janu. All right. Some people call this half butterfly. So I'm going to bring my right foot in. And the left leg long with the toes pointing up towards the sky, foot is flexed. And then I'm gonna side bend here. So same as we did at the beginning of class, but I'm gonna reach my left arm down my shin. You can also prop it on a block here. And then I'm gonna stretch up and over, finding a nice deep stretch in the low back here and lengthening through the side of the body. Keep breathing. And we'll switch sides. So I'll come up out of that stretch and send my right leg out long. Tuck in my left foot and reach up and over. Good. Now slowly start to make your way out of that pose, and I'm going to send both legs long. And just for a moment here, you can prop yourself with a bolster, or maybe make a little bridge with your blocks and your bolster. I'm going to fold down the middle, and I'm going to rest my hand here, my head here on my hands. And close my eyes. My toes are still pointing up towards the sky with my feet flexed. Good. So press your way up out of that forward fold. Get the mosquitoes off your face. And we are going to come down onto the back for Supta Baddha Konasana. So, recline cobbler's pose. Come down, elbow my way all the way down onto my back. And I'm going to bring feet together, knees apart, forming a little diamond shape with my legs. And you can support your knees with blocks. That feels nice. So if this isn't comfortable, use your props. Your props are there to support you in your practice, to support the body. They are a great way to extend loving kindness towards yourself. You can rest your hands wherever feels comfortable. Mine feel nice on my belly. Or you could reach them up overhead. Or have them down by your sides. Again, try to imagine yourself growing roots down into the earth. Roots emerging from every place in your body that's touching the mat and sinking deep, deep down into the earth. Soften the muscles of the face as you feel your body melting down, supported by the earth. Good. So now I'm going to bring my knees back together. You can use your hands to give yourself a little support there. And I'm going to walk my feet mat's distance apart. Preparing for a twist. I'm going to let my knees fall over to one side and then reach my arm out in the opposite direction. If it feels comfortable for the neck, your head can follow with your gaze moving towards the fingertips or keeping the eyes closed. Slowly start to switch my twist, bringing knees in, back through center, and moving to the other side. slowly, slowly coming out of your twist, moving back to center. I'm going to keep my feet mat's distance apart and my hands on my belly. And I'm going to just gently rock my pelvis back so that my low back comes flush with the mat. You might need to scoot your shoulder blades up a little bit higher on the mat. And then I'm going to let my knees fall into the midline, which is this imaginary line that runs up the center of the body. And just pause here for a moment. Approaching the end of class here. Extend a little bit of gratitude to yourself for having taken this time out to practice and to grow your yoga practice, to learn yoga and to learn about who you are, to really nourish the body, to find movements, and to settle into stillness. All those things are challenging things to do, and you've done them today. It's hard to take time out for ourselves. We're always running on to the next thing that we're doing for other people. But this moment is important. Taking this time for yourself is important, and now you've done it. Good. So, last little thing here before Shavasana, I'm going to hug my knees up into my chest, maybe moving my knees in circles, massaging the low back, moving first in one direction and then the other. And then I'm going to make one little last connection to my core by curling my head up to my knees, squeezing in, giving myself a nice tight hug here. And then release. So my legs will come down at least mat's distance apart with the toes flopping out to the sides. Arms long down by my sides with the palms facing up. Maybe scoot those shoulder blades underneath you and find a place where you're comfortable. Wiggle around until it's just right. And then you can settle into stillness, letting the heart space melt its way open as the shoulders are supported by the mat. Eyes softly close, not squeezing, but just gently closing eyelids over eyes, softening the space between the eyebrows as the forehead relaxes. Job well done, my friend. We're going to end with a cleansing breath here in Shavasana. Let's take 2 cleansing breaths. So first, take a deep breath in through the nose, and open the mouth and exhale. One more time, deep breath in through the nose. This time, really let it all go as you exhale through the mouth. And take a few moments here. If you have the time, really spend some time here in Shavasana today, granting yourself that precious space in which to rest. And I will see you next time. Namaste.